I would like to introduce Nancy Merkling of Nancy Merkling Productions.
Okay, let's see if I can get you back. Here we go. Excellent. When you were talking, I didn't have my at the bottom, but now I'm excited because I can talk to you guys. So normally I've got this podcast. I have all my notes this way and they're formatted to be there, but these new notes for your photography class aren't there. So I'll be glancing right. There's no anything exciting here other than those notes. So I just want to welcome everybody. I think since the age of digital hit, that we all have at least one common denominator goal with our photography, and that is to at least take really good pictures of our life in cool moments that we want to capture. And if we can start from there today, no one's trying to, shoot a wedding business with their cell phone. No one's trying to go out and do dog portraits and start a new business. You're just trying to use the camera that's with you the most to get that really cool shot. And so I think as someone who's toted a lot of camera equipment her entire life, that I have come to appreciate the iPhone and its abilities. I have a 7, so I don't know what everybody's, if you actually want to put, I'm going to open chat up a little bit here. If you guys are able to chat and let me know if you have anything that's older than a 7, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll move forward from a 7 forward. And of course, we'll open up for questions at the back. So my name is Nancy Merkling. I own a company called Nancy Merkling Productions. And what we do is commercial photography. Janet Kay is my lead photographer. We also teach photography. That's me. We go on travel workshops to Park County and do covered bridges and up to Door County. It's a lot of fun. We also do group workshops like street photography downtown. We do things just like this for the iPhone, and these can pile on. And then I do a 90-minute session called 90 with Nance, which means you come in and we just talk about your personal photography goals and I get you going. Enough of a plug. I want you to know this. I've been a photographer since I was 11. And so over time, a lot of the things that make sense, I read other people's blogs on how to be a great photographer, but the things that make sense have stayed true, whether it be with film or it be with digital. And those are the things that actually make a good photograph. The camera is just the tool. The hammer doesn't make the house. So I'm going to teach you some of these inside secrets, and they're not really secrets. You just have to be able to apply them. And as we all know, over time is tried and true, consistent, and over time is the best way to learn anything. So please don't pick up your camera and think about it once or twice a year, like my parents did when someone visited, and then you had to take a picture in front of whatever flowering bush was in the front yard. And there was always a picture of my mom and the visitors, and then my dad and the visitors, because they didn't have a tripod. They just had a cheap little camera. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Okay, so we're going to go to cell phone photography now, and I am going to teach it in iPhone language. But if you have a Samsung, the techniques are the same when it comes to the actual gear, right? The camera. You'll just want to write it down, and then you can Google after and say, how do I turn on grid lines? How do I turn on auto HDR? So the concept's the same. The path might just be a little bit different. All right. In the photography, as I talked about, how the stuff that hasn't really changed, it's for me the fact that it's heavy technical. The left brain is so heavy in the technical in photography because, face it, you guys, nobody talks about apertures and the inverse proportion theory of lighting at cocktail parties and has a lot of people around them fascinated. So with that being said, there's this crud on the left side, and then on the right side is the beauty of it, the art. It's what you see. You see gorgeous light and it's shining over some incredible scene, and your children are playing in the water and it's backlit and slaying. You're like, I want to take a picture of that. And then the technical part comes in and kind of ruins the moment. So I'm going to give you a base that is for iPhone. Because if you have a DSLR or a bigger camera, there's a completely different conversation. So I'm going to give you a base, I'm going to say it again, that is for an iPhone or Samsung, a cell phone. So know that as I'm teaching this, there's a boundary around it, okay? So I'm going to give you both the tech and the art part and these little snippets, and then we can build on it from there later if you have more questions. All right, so the technical part, let's start with that, and then we'll move into the fun part. I think that's always the best way, right? Like if you're gonna have spinach and ice cream, you'd want the ice cream to be last. Okay, the techie is not that bad. So I want you guys to get your cameras out. And what we're gonna do is talk just a little tiny bit about what it looks like to not have too many apps open. No, just kidding. About what it looks like in your camera. So I'm gonna open up my camera like this, and you guys are gonna wanna do the same. Hopefully, you have an X and an XR. Okay, good. Hi, Dorothy. Hi, Diane. So you're going to want to make sure that you have your camera open like this, okay? And everyone's is going to look different if they don't have, if everyone doesn't just have an iPhone 7 like me, that would be fun, right? All right, so up in one of your controls here is going to be a flash button. And if you tap on it, it'll make the flash go on. And if you tap on it again, it'll have a line through it, right? So you guys just leave the flash off always, unless you're in a dark tunnel and you have to document a photo. Never does flash provide for you beautiful light, ever, never. Just want to make that clear. Does anyone take a picture with flash and then say, God, that's beautiful light, it's a beautiful photo? It is a documentary photo. If you need to take a picture of something that you have to document, that's fine. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. If you use flash and you don't like it, don't blame me. All right, so then you've got HDR, and this might be for some of you in your settings on your camera, but know that you'll need to find your HDR settings, and I want you to leave them on auto. HDR, I'll explain in a little bit, but the reason it's on auto is your camera will take both if the camera evaluates and thinks that you need it. And the camera's pretty good at doing that. I'll explain why you need it later, but right now I would rather have you take 2 pictures than later wish that you had used HDR. It's kind of my default lazy photographer thing. And then over here, oh, that's timer, that's this, that's that. If you've got the 3 gray circles, I want you to make sure that you're in the normal editing mode. You don't want to be taking pictures with anything else. Down here is your selfie camera, or wherever you guys find it. Raise your hand if I'm going too fast. So your selfie camera, this front camera, not so good. So if you want to take a nice photo of something, always make sure that you're using your back camera. So I would, you know, obviously we all do selfies, but if you want it to be something bigger than that. All right, so down at the bottom, I am going to talk not about every single setting you have. I'm going to talk about the format called photo. So photo is a horizontal format. See how that is? Okay, and then square. Square is a square. It's pretty exciting. And then there's pano. If we have enough time today, we'll do pano. And if I forget, you have to let me know at the end. It's one of those bonus things, okay? All right, so I want you to stay on photo for right now, because this gives you the most opportunity. You can always take your horizontal into a square. You can't always go square to horizontal. So this is going to be your default. Again, your default is no flash. HDR is on auto. You have just a normal, you don't have any editing that happens in your camera, and you're going to be on photo. That's exciting. Okay, here we go to the next thing. It's deeper now. The other day, I'll tell you this quickly, my tech girl from the Dole, because I'm also the co-executive director at the Dole with my friend Janet Kay and co-partner in crime. And so I asked her, we were working in Zoom, and she said, I need to have you click on the up arrow. Do you see the box? And I said, yeah. And she said, click on the advanced button. And I said, I don't ever do that without you, just so you know. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to go out of here, and we are going to turn on grid lines. So you guys are going to find your settings. And if this is too much for you to operate while I'm talking, it's okay. Write it down just with the little arrows like settings, and you push on that, right? And then I want you to go to photos and camera. Whoop, watch, I won't be able to find mine and you'll be totally disappointed. It's very colorful. Too much stuff. I think I missed it. See if you can find it in yours. It's just my scrolling abilities got crazy. Here it is, camera. So I went into camera. And in camera, so now you've got, here's your path that you're gonna go. You're gonna go settings, camera, and then I want you to turn something that says grid, G-R-I-D, on. So typically that's what iPhone does, is it turns it on and off, okay? And then I want you to go down to HDR and make sure that keep normal photo is on. So it's settings, camera, grid on, HDR normal photo on. Why? Aren't you glad this part's almost over? Because that's just not talk that makes me excited about taking pictures. All right, so that's this. What I'm giving you is my lazy photographer method of how to be the most prepared for any shot that comes out. I'm literally giving you this narrow path through, because I don't know if you've noticed, but the world offers way too many options. When I needed to start a podcast, I asked Janet to find a light for me that would illuminate a little bit better in the room that I work at out of the house. And she said, you're capable of doing that. And I said, there's too many options. She's my lighting geek, so she went through and read everything. So I want to give to you in this photography a clean path, like easy. Like I'm just going to tell you what to pick in each category. As you get better, you'll have questions and maybe situations that will arise that will have you say, oh, okay, so when I do this, this didn't happen. That's when you need time for more instruction. Okay, so we went through the techie part. I want you to write down these 4 apps. Don't load them right now. Magic Hour, and then Sun Surveyor Lite, L-I-T-E. Finger Focus, and Pick, P-I-C dash tap, T-A-P dash go. I'll come back to these in a little bit and just tell you why I recommend them. These are the apps that'll go along with you taking pictures. Cropping, editing, knowing when to go out, all that good stuff. Okay, so we talked about HDR, flash, the modes. I want you to stay on photo. Let me show you, so let's go back into your camera. Let me show you a couple of things you do have control over. Because you know, on a big camera, like we're flipping out lenses and we're choosing f-stops and shutter speeds. And once again, the people at the cocktail party start walking away from me when I talk that way. On your phone, you don't have all those options on your native camera on your phone. And that's what we're gonna start with, okay? So what you should see if you turned your grid on is a grid when you bring your camera up, which is nice. When you tap the screen, wherever you tap it, it does 2 things. The first thing is it focuses right there. So let's talk about focus. Ever taken a picture that doesn't have the right thing in focus? Yeah. So let's make sure that whatever it is in the photo you want in focus, that you tap on the screen there, because that tells your camera that's what I want in focus. The second thing it does when you tap on there, if you'll notice, is there's a little sun with on the right with a sliding bar, and that's your exposure. Because sometimes, I'm sure you've noticed, when you go to take a picture of a sunset, your sky starts to get blown out and all those beautiful colors you want to capture aren't happening. So if you actually tap in the sky, because the sunset's not going to be something to focus on, and you bring, like if I tap here, I can bring if I just do this, I can bring that down, or I can go like this and tap, and I can make it a lot brighter. So you can actually adjust your exposure by tapping on the screen and your focus. That's about all the tools you got. So we've set your default and we've given you these tools. The apps are not free. They like $1.99 or something like that. And you always want to keep a normal photo with the HDR, because sometimes you don't like how HDR looks. I'm gonna hope that you guys, you know, there's something that gets us started with wanting to do photography, and that is this thing called good taste, okay? Good taste. That's what we have, and that's what we want. We want a better photo than what we're currently taking. So that whole idea of HDR is that it starts to fill the skies in where they're blown out, and it starts to lift the shadows where they might be too dark, and it looks a little bit too animated for me sometimes. So sometimes I like that HDR has come in, And other times I go, no, not really my cup of tea. I would prefer that area just be a little bit more ethereal with the light. So that's your option. You've got two in the end and you get to pick. Okay, so I'm glad you're excited about the exposure, Sarah. Okay, so right, I never knew the sun was able to be moved and changed. I know, right? No, that's all. That's it. That's my spiel. Kidding. Okay, so focus, exposure. Your shutter button, which you know on your camera is here. Okay, it's also your volume button. So I'm going to encourage you guys when you're shooting, especially because you're shooting, oops, sorry, I have the square open, especially because you're shooting in a rectangle, I would also encourage you to use this at a horizontal slant. And if any of you are social media marketers, you'll know that places like LinkedIn have a horizontal format and how they roll through the newsfeed. So don't hesitate to go horizontal as well. And when you go horizontal, your volume buttons will actually take the picture as well. They double, wait, I'm gonna take your picture. Yeah, they double as a shutter release. So that's good. And now here's one more cool thing. Who wears earbuds with volume control? Because if you have your earbuds on and they're plugged in, your volume control will release the shutter because it's the same thing that you just did here and it's controlling that volume. So that's really good for stalking in street photography because people don't think you're taking their picture. They just think you're adjusting the volume on your phone. I did not say that on a recorded program. All right, so I'll tell you this too. Clean your lens, clean your camera lens, and not just with a t-shirt, kind of like you do with your computer screen. Use a nice soft cloth and a little bit, because it gets dirty. I mean, we don't even have it protected, right? And then don't zoom. I know you guys know how to zoom. I know you know how to do that and zoom in. Don't do it because it's called a digital zoom instead of a lens zoom, like you care. But it's just not as high quality. The better thing for you to do would be to just take the picture and then later zoom in and crop it because it'll be a better resolution. Okay, so we're gonna go from the boring stuff. That was it for technical. And again, I asked, yeah, on your watch as well, like a remote control. I know, and there's some side stuff for your phones, you guys, that I'm just gonna leave out today, but there's some really good lenses, like fisheye lenses you can put on them, which will help you both with still shots as well as video if you do video. And there's cool things like, you know, the Gorilla tripod, which you want. You just want this. It's kind of nicer sometimes, and it doubles as a little bit of a selfie stick. Ooh. This is nice because it wraps around things like this, so you can like put it on an antenna or something, and then with some of your lenses that you get, you can also get a remote control. So you could set up a really nice shot of you and your husband standing in the sunset and make that happen. All right, just spent some of your money, didn't I? Okay, so let's talk about the art part, because I'm telling you, well, to begin with, I'm an artist first, and that's kind of what put me into photography, but it's the reason we're taking the picture. And unless you're shooting machine parts for a catalog for some company that manufactures them, the tripod, Louise, it's Gorilla or a Gorilla lookalike. I don't know if mine's an actual Gorilla. So if you're trying to take beautiful pictures, this next part is what is actually the most important part. In fact, I have 3 sermons in life. The first one is that relationships come first. And then the second one is to seek beautiful light. The third one is to grow every day, if you want to know that one. But that middle one, that seek beautiful light one, that's because I'm a photographer. And I'm not going to downplay the fact that if you don't get the light right, why are you taking the shot? In fact, I leave my camera, no matter what it is, out of shooting mode until I see what I want, and it's got to have beautiful light or an alternative purpose in shooting it. Otherwise, I just don't. I've gotten kind of snobby in the end. So I want you guys to kind of become light seekers, beautiful light seekers, and I'll tell you where you can find it, because that's the important thing. You're not going to find it at high noon, unless it's overcast and kind of hazy and fun, or if it is a storm, you might find it in storm light. You're going to actually find the coolest light at sunrise and sunset. And I'm not asking you to shoot the sunrise or the sunset. I'm actually asking you to have it behind you and photograph how it traits the landscape, the people, the still life, the whatever you have in front of you. So it's going to be your light source from behind to forward. So beautiful light, that magic hour app is important for that because it'll tell you what the sunrise and sunset are every day. And I would say that you want the blue hour is an hour before the sun hits the horizon in the morning, and then the golden hour is the hour after, and in the evening you go from the golden hour into the blue hour. So make sure that you're there with enough time to experience both. You might as well be. All right, so beautiful light is something that you kind of have to plan. There's no app for that. You can't order it. Gosh, if I could, I would be a very wealthy photographer. So you have to seek it. And I would tell you that my default beautiful light is soft, meaning indirect. It's just not the sun shining really harshly on me. Think about it, ladies. Do we want that for our headshot? Absolutely not. We like the soft and the filtery look. So the default light for me as far as beautiful light is soft light, just diffused. And the way you find this is either on an overcast day or in the shade. You find soft light not directly coming from the sun and into someone. So you can do it inside, even if it's super harsh outside. Go into a window that doesn't have the light shining in, which means you would see a square on the floor, right? So that's soft light. Just find soft light. Later in life, I'll teach you how to do backlit photography because you can kind of create your own shadow on a super hot day. So if you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert and it is not overcast, I can teach you that, but later. So right now, what we know is the most important thing that we're going to do is to seek beautiful light with photography. And I am going to share my screen. Can I do this, Molly? She's gonna.
You should be able to.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure it doesn't mess you up. All right, so I'm going to say share screen, and I'm going to go to here. So can you guys see dogs running down a path?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for answering because now I don't see the chat anymore. So this is an example, you guys, of beautiful light. Like I just want you to see why these photos were taken. Because if this was harsh in the middle of the day, sorry to be so harsh, but it would just be dog butts. I mean, running. Like, look at the long shadows. Look at the light coming through the trees. The same thing here. These are a little bit backlit, so some of them are fun. But this kind of this hazy light that's happening over this bicycle from beyond, and it's giving you our reflection in the puddle. Beautiful light. This is a farm I lived on, and I used to keep a laundry lamp up all the time with vintage clothing on it because it was kind of fun to grab light like this in the morning, like, right? Okay, so just note that this is an old shed with a vine without leaves on it, but because there's pretty light and shadow play, it completely transforms the image. This right here is dappled light. See how it kind of flickers and plays across the top of the old ice cream maker? Here's storm light, another place I lived for a while. My daughter swam in that pond like crazy. Ooh, I always shower, always shower. So this backlighting that kind of washes across shiny surfaces, we talk about it as rim lighting. And then we've got just this golden wash that's happening downtown. That's end of the daylight. Now I want you to look carefully at this. This is a portrait. This is just inside a barn, but notice how soft that light is. That's the kind of light, ladies, that everybody wants on their skin, okay? Not harsh, not direct. So again, that splashing light. And then I'm just gonna show you my favorite that I took with my iPhone when I was teaching in Michigan, because check out that light. Is that insane? Yeah, so that's the whole light scenario. And then I'm gonna bring up one more and show you what light does. Because the other thing with light, when we talked about beauty, is we also have to think about direction. And so the direction of light as it's happening is something that will cast shadows, especially if you're in hard light. And I would tell you, key point here, if you have to take a photo in hard light, if there is no other option, because if there's another option, don't do it. But if there's no other option, flip it to black and white, because black and white and shadow play now becomes two different shapes instead of reality. So this is a CD album cover that we did for a country western band. And then like even just the idea of shadow play with kids, beautiful granddaughter. And this here is just a grid in a warehouse factory elevator that casts a shadow across the side at the end of the day. So
Nancy, we didn't see those last 3 pictures that you were talking about.
you don't see these? Dang it. Okay, so I'm going to stop this share. And then I'm going to go in and share again. Let's see if this happens. Sorry, ladies. Now do you see? Do you see an elevator?
Yes.
Yay! I am more Zoom techie than I thought. All right, so this is the grid I was telling you about and how it casts this fun shadow pattern. And then this is simple but true, like a kid playing with light and shadow. How fun is that? And then this is the CD album I was talking about with the long shadows. And that backlighting that you can do with people sometimes is kind of fun, and it makes that safe, or I'm sorry, soft, because they're obviously in the shade, right? All right, so you can see me now, right? Let me see if there's any questions. Now you saw them. Okay, got all the rest answered. All right, so if you get light right, you'll get everything right. Like, I mean, it's crazy. You can take a really bad photo in really good light and get away with it, but you can't take a decently composed, nice subject photo in bad light and get away with it. It is just an X. It's just an X. So finding that light first is important. And even just giving you a side part on that, Janet and I shoot commercial photography, so we do work for websites and marketing and things like that. And in that happening, we know that we have to have our light right, and it'll take us the amount of time. Going digital hasn't changed that, to set that up and make it right. We plug into the computer and we are analyzing on site as we're shooting. If that light's not right, we have to reshoot it. So know that as you look for beautiful light, as you look for the right light, try some different ones. You guys, it's digital. You can always hit the trash can on them. Try different scenarios. You're not ever gonna be disappointed in the shots that you took. You'll only be disappointed in the ones that you didn't. I didn't make that up. I think somebody else did, but anyway, it sounded inspirational to me. So let's move from light. We talked about direction, shadows. I want your light behind you. We said behind you. We said that if you have to shoot in hard light, flip it to black and white because it makes it more dramatic. And then we talked about having, I didn't talk about having enough light. So this is what happens when you try to shoot in the dark. It doesn't work, okay? Because if anything is moving, whether that be something in front of your camera or you, like we're not, glass of wine maybe, and you're a little bit, no, I'm just kidding. That it's gonna have a slow shutter speed. Like you don't care, again, the cocktail party people are walking away from me, but what you need to know is just in your head, you have to ask yourself, do I have enough light here to take a picture with my phone? And if you don't, you don't. If you have the tripod, so now you've eliminated your shake, and there's nothing moving in front, you can make that happen. But I don't think you guys are trying to do that right now. I think you're just trying to capture life's moments. So that's light. Light category is the first thing. What's the first thing you do? You look for beautiful light. You analyze it, and you decide whether or not that's the light for you. So the second part of the art part for me is it's the fun part, because you can drive yourself crazy and it keeps it fresh. I'm someone who likes a good challenge. It's why Janet and I took over at the Dole down in Crystal Lake, and we felt like that would be a fun thing to revive over there. So what I'm going to start you with is this. I like numbers, don't you? When somebody says like 5 steps to this. So the first 3 things that anyone sees in a photo. This isn't me telling you this. This is actually science. You guys, art and science. The scientists got into the artists' heads and into the art appreciators, and they ran tests. So this comes from testing. And they figured out what the first 3 things are that we see in a photograph. Ready? Number 1, the lightest part. So you probably see this sign back here and this glare on my glasses, right? Yep. Number 2 is the part that's most in focus. You know this, you've seen it. Field of sunflowers, there's one in front in focus, right? So that's what you see. If all of them are in focus, your eyes are just going crazy. And number 3 is the color red, or, because we have these now, a warning color. So, you know, the color of a cone or somebody's PPE vest, you know, for working on the side of the highway. Those are colors that we see first. It's not like the the highway department said, hey, let's pick a color for our vests and tell everybody to see that. They did the study and they know. So if you know that in your photo, the first 3 things people are going to see is the lightest part, the part that's most in focus, and a really bright color, then wouldn't you like just think about that as you're taking the picture? Yeah, write it down and do that. It's funny when we shoot events, in real life, you don't think about these colors screaming at you, but in a stilled photo you do. So if we shoot a race, guess what is lining everything? Orange cones. Everywhere, everywhere. And it's fine in real life. We know what that means. We obey. We stay on one side or the other. We understand that it's in a photo, they just look horrible. In fact, we turn a lot of race photos black and white for that reason alone. Okay, so there's another good tip for you. Do you have classes that we can sign up for? Yes, Louise. I do 90 with Nancy's, and I also do street photography classes. So if you guys are interested in anything, nancymerkling.com. Tried to keep it easy. And then my email is nancy@nancymerkling.com. Send me an email, let me know what you're looking for, and I'll kind of point you in the right direction as far as what would be best for you. Thanks for asking, I appreciate it. All right, so we're gonna move into composition. Those are your first 3 things. And that idea of composition is that, I'm gonna share my screen again. So hold on a second. There we go. The idea with composition is that you want to grab elements that would be pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to give you like 4 elements of composition, pretty easy. And then we'll do a little bit of a summary and you guys can ask questions or move forward from there. But there's like 50. So we're not going to get those done in 90 minutes, so you know. But I wanted to give you the ones that are dynamic and that are kind of like, for me, basic, right? Like I'd like to start with the basics. So this is called the, it's either the diagonal or the leading lines. And so these are lines that lead you into your frame, into your image. Diagonal leading lines are dynamic. We take a moving world and we still it. So how do we kind of make it moving again? We also take a 3D world and we turn it into 2D. So how do we turn that into 3D? How do we add layers? And so that's why we like diagonals and lead-in lines. So I'm just going to roll through these so you can see. Something as simple and even soft and round as this canoe has all of these diagonals happening, and our brains follow lines. You guys, they do. It's why they paint stripes on the side of the road. Clearly, we can all tell you exactly where the pavement ends and the gravel begins, but they paint stripes on the side of the road because people go into autopilot and your brain will follow the line. Gosh, you get all these kind of trivia from me today. All right, so see how strong this diagonal is and how it leads us in or naturally frames? These diagonals lead down to the child. The diagonal of this table, this is a website that we did, and these chairs lead into the subject. See how this railing spins up and around? I waited a long time for the guy in the Navy suit to come by. It's Navy Pier, come on. And then you see all of the triangles and this is not a quiet photo. You guys, this is dynamic. This is absolutely dynamic. So these here, diagonals, lead-in lines, and I'll tell you that from the bottom left and right corner is where is really great to have that happen, okay? So I'm gonna do the stop share. I'm coming back, I hope you can see me. I knew somebody would say something if they couldn't. All right, good. So diagonal lines, having them lead to your subject is a good idea. Your subject is important. Otherwise, you just have a scene. You guys, I I am a maniac for photography and composition because I create things. I create stories for websites. I create stories for marketing and branding. I don't just walk by and happen to be able to grab something at somebody's company. We make that happen. So I analyze intensely opening scenes in movies. And this is why. The opening scene rarely has the character, the primary character in it. It's usually a scene waiting for someone to enter. And so I want you to think about that. I want you to think about, is my scene something that's just waiting for someone to enter or a subject to enter? Or does it actually have a subject, person's usually a good subject, or a focal point? And a focal point might be a bench that's on the side of a trail that's going through the woods. Now there's a focal point. It's not just a path through the woods. The path through the woods looks like it's waiting for a focal point. And a focal point, you guys, is someplace that you start. It's the first thing that they see. Hopefully it's in focus. Maybe the lightest part or a warning color, it doesn't have to be. And then it's someplace that they end. So someone looks at your image and they see that focal point, your intended purpose of taking it, or intentionally putting it in there, and they then go through, and then that's where they end again. So I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to show you subject. Goodness. There it is. This is not my photo. All the other ones were, but I love this photo. It's one of my students. His name is James Watkins, and he's a really, really amazing street photographer. He used to live in downtown Chicago. If you want to follow him on Facebook, please. Oh my gosh, James Watkins, W-A-T-K-I-N-S. So this was when NATO was happening, and they had all the, and he waited for a very long time for the perfect subject to walk past, because the juxtaposition of this library looking woman with this whole line of people that aren't protecting us from her, and then the bus coming with the My Kind of Town, it just made it a trifecta of perfection. But what was important is her. She's that focal point or that subject. And then I'm gonna pull this up and show you the power of red. Because it's hard to get wrong what the subject is in this photo as well. I'm not going to show you a whole bunch. I just want you to think every time you take a photo, what's my subject? And then what I'm going to show you is where to actually put that, because that's important too. All right, so I'm going to reshare. Are you guys ready? This is big stuff. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, I hope this is helping everyone. This is called the rule of thirds. I know I wasn't going to sneak any more techie stuff in, but it's composition, so it's fun. This is what it says. If you divide your photo, no matter what the format, into like a tic-tac-toe board of 3 equal sections, across and down, there are 2 strong horizontal lines. Sorry, that was vertical. 2 strong vertical lines and 2 strong horizontal lines, and 4 things called PowerPoints. The PowerPoints are a really good place to put a subject or focal point. That's why I moved right to here from the last thing, a very good place to put a subject or a focal point. So again, science came in and went, where does the eye want to go first? Strong vertical or horizontal lines are the perfect place to put strong, vertical and horizontal lines go on these vertical and horizontal lines. So if you've got strong vertical or horizontal lines in your image, that's where you want to put them. I'm going to show you examples because that's just boring as heck. But think about it. So easy. And this is why I just put a grid on your phone. Because guess what? It's like a cheat sheet. It's awesome. Steve Jobs knew that creatives needed to compose within the rule of thirds. We did not get a lot of settings on our native camera on our iPhones, but what we did get is a grid. So understand its importance, don't blow it off. So note that here, her face, right, because we're humans, we're gonna look at a face, is right in a PowerPoint, and she is on a rule of third and almost is that pull on the left. Note here that that window at the very end is in a PowerPoint, that your vertical is on a vertical and your bridge is on a horizontal. Note that the silo is in that upper left PowerPoint. Look at the red flag. You guys, if that red flag and motor wasn't on there, that would be a much more boring photo. Here's kind of an overlay to show you the deer and where and why it's placed there. And then if you've got kind of a boring sky, why not put that horizon up high and note how important that tree is. Otherwise, it's that opening scene waiting for a subject. So here's an overlay that kind of shows you that this was put into the rule of thirds, even in how this was composed with the elevator and where that other placement goes. Okay? Share. All right, and I'm back. Here's a tip to write down. Ready? Do you guys like looking at the pictures? Yes. The options and padding are something that I ask our Nancy Merkling production photographers to give me. I don't shoot anymore because I'm going to be 60 this year and it hurts me physically to shoot a wedding. I look like I've run the marathon the next day when I get up. So Janet Kay and I merged 3 years ago, and thank you, Anna. And she does all of our shooting. She does all of our photography. So she and our other shooters go out and shoot events and weddings and businesses and websites. And then they give me the photos and I do a skill called culling. That means I take 3,000 images and I turn them into anywhere between 250 and 450, whatever they've bought for the wedding. Well, that being said, so I can tell you, so please take this and breathe a sigh of relief. Rarely are horizons straight. Just not, it's almost perfect getting your shot right here. So what I tell them I need, because if I'm going to go in and correct that horizon, because I don't want my water pouring like this, is I tell them I need options and padding. What that means is take enough photos that I don't go, crap, you only took 2 and both of them sucked. And I need padding, meaning a little bit extra around the outside. So when I go in to straighten that horizon, if I need to, I don't lose important information. If you've just composed something to be on those rule of thirds lines, and then you have to straighten your horizon, it might take stuff further to the outside. So think about options and padding. Digital is free. Take more pictures. I have never said I have taken way too many great photos today. I'm just not sure how I can pick. I have said, hey, you're kind of cocky if you thought only 3 of those would give you what you wanted. So think about that. All right, we're gonna go to, we talked about rule of thirds. We're gonna go to perspectives because that is so much fun. And I know I'm watching the time, so I hope everybody's doing okay and having fun. Share screen. Perspective is something for me that is what I do. I have our interns and our assistants always have pictures of me, laying on the ground, under a car, doing something crazy. But perspective is anywhere but what I call tourist position. So tourist position is when, you're taking a picture like this from exactly where you're standing. It's the same spot that every other tourist or hobby photographer is going to do it. But why don't you just maybe crouch down a little bit, or maybe get up high a little bit, or maybe go over to the side a little bit more, or maybe shoot in a complete semicircle all the way around, whatever your subject is. So this, believe it or not, is my daughter in a white t-shirt on our farm with me standing on top of a stump. And the light was so soft, it was the end of the day. So I was standing up on the stump trying to shoot over the corn, and she's looking up at me like this, asking me questions. And I was like, hold still, because how beautiful is that, right? That's just grass below her. So this, again, this is Amish country, and it's an old schoolhouse. So just crouching down just a little bit kind of gives it a little bit more of a dynamic range. This is one of my Nancy Merkling Productions photographers, Amber Benson, but she shot this at the Dole going up to the cupola. But again, perspective, shooting up, not shooting straight. Whoops, sorry, people. There we go. So shooting down low instead of up above. Getting down on the kids' level, you guys. Get on the kids' level. Crouch. I know it hurts the knees, it hurts mine. So here's a little shot of me photographing my daughter, and then what the end shot looks like. So if you want this, that's what you have to look like to get it. You have to decide whether or not you want ticks. All right, so again, from up above, we did this shoot for pearls for Stefan's Jewelers. And instead of just having someone have a necklace on, we stood her in that beautiful window light. That's their carpeting down below, and stood up on a ladder and shot down with just a little bit of the hair. We did her hair and makeup, and this was one of the end shots. And then this here required laying on the floor and laying my head on the first step at the door. So think about how perspective changed the way every single one of these things looks, okay? All right, and I've got one more. And then we get to ask some questions. This next one is called natural framing. And for me, it's probably something that's kind of a fun thing to do, even if you don't have a camera in your hand. But just think, if I had a person, where would I frame them? Or if I had a subject, where would I frame them? So this first one, see how these doors come in and kind of naturally frame this kitchen? We were doing a shoot for the Barrington White House for the magazine, and there was just kind of a boring kitchen. So bringing those kitchen doors in where it looks like you're actually moving through and in, all we did is step outside the room and use either the doors or sometimes the outside of a room to frame something. Do you see how not only is she framed in the alcove, but her body also emulates the frame of her harp. So that's fun natural framing. Natural framing can happen, especially with people, on a stairwell with beautiful light coming in. This may be my granddaughter. Not ashamed at all. This is another granddaughter. So again, think about anything that's gonna arch or go over the top. This is a culvert, like a big cement culvert, but how beautiful and naturally framed. This is a very old film photo of my daughter. Look at how the shadows and the corn create a beautiful rotation around her. And then this, because sometimes, is a town called New Idria, which is a ghost town up in the hills of California. My cousin took me up there because he knows I like to abandon hunt. And so being able to shoot this church, it was difficult to shoot it right on top of it. So I backed way up in the field and made sure that I had a little bit of fence and tree. And now I wasn't just doing what I would call a product shot, because a product shot is you see something, you take a picture of it. How about if you tell a story? How about if you frame it? How about if you use dynamic lines? How about if you get weight, like James Watkins did for the right person to walk past the police? Okay, so let's recap for just a minute before we open for questions. Number one, my name is Nancy Merkling. I am a photographer. I teach photography and workshops, and travel workshops and street photography, and that will all be open to us soon. I also co-executive direct The Dole with my partner in crime, amazing Janet Kay. And I am grateful for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate the fact that you guys showed up, and so many of you. So I'm going to recap on what we've learned. We have learned that beautiful light is probably the most important thing that you have to look for when it comes to photography. We've learned that what you just need to do is figure out those things I told you on your camera, and that you need to apply them every day. You guys, this is not going to get easy until you actually do it consistently. Remember, I told you in the beginning that my techie person at the Dole, when she said click on the advanced button, I'm like, I never do that on my own. I don't usually walk towards technology. So I understand on your side of this, like this to me, I've been doing this since I was 11, so it's not a big deal. But on your side, as you're learning, if you don't do it every day, it's never gonna get easy, and it's always gonna kind of ruin the mood of you trying to take a photo. I would say shoot like crazy, it's free. Please take as many photos every day as you possibly can. And then remember to options and padding. You're going to appreciate that. So your apps that I gave you, there's Pick, Tap, Go and Finger Focus. Those are two apps that I just recommend for editing. They're the only two that I use. People will give you long lists of other things they do. Totally up to you. Magic Hour and or Sun Surveyor are good for your lights. I'm sorry, for determining when light is. Like if I'm going to do a shoot, we went a couple of weeks ago down to State Park, a couple hours under us, I don't know, below us. And we had to leave at 3:30 in the morning because sunrise was at 5:47. So I knew that. I knew what time I was going to arrive and that I would be able to catch it. So it's just, there's just an intentionality. Okay, so do you want to open it up for questions, Molly?
Yes, absolutely. So if you would like to turn on your microphones and your camera, if you're the one who's asking the question, and then otherwise mute yourself. Thank you. I actually have a question, Nancy. So sometimes I shoot events for the chamber and I don't get to choose what the light looks like. So I have the bane of my existence is the beautiful McHenry Country Club, which the setting is beautiful, but the lights are always coming in through the windows because they have so many windows. Do you have any tips or tricks for how to adjust?
Country clubs. So there's walls of them, correct? And don't they have really heavy drapes on them?
They don't have any drapes. The McHenry Country Club is just all windows, and you can pull down a little bit of a shade, but it doesn't actually block the light.
So sure, you're just going to be far, you're going to put that banquet windows behind you, and you're just going to be far enough in the room that there's not a hard, heavy square. And you'll know that, you know, like you see it on the floor, it's that square of sunshine. If you don't have a square of sunshine on the floor, then you don't have harsh light. So that bank of windows is going to be your light source, and your light source for that should always be behind you, right? So it's shining on your subject, and you're just going to get your subject far enough away from that window that it's not too bright, and then tap on them to make sure that your exposure and your focus is right, and try it that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. You can tell I've done that once before. Anybody? Have you guys been to Fourth Fridays? Anyone? Yes, maybe. It's obviously postponed for a long time with any other large gathering, but we'll figure it out.
Nancy, how do you spell, what was it called? Ficker focus or flicker focus?
Oh, finger focus.
Finger focus. That, okay, good. That makes more sense. I don't need to spell that then. I thought it was like ficker. So
if you put speaker view on your phone or on your, if you put speaker view on your Zoom, you might be able to see this. So this is finger focus. And what happens is I just brought this photo up of my daughter, and she's completely blurry in finger focus. The picture's not, but it brings it up that way. And then I take my finger and I paint the areas that I want in focus like this. Oh, I know, I love listening to that hum. And so now just her top part and her face are in focus and the rest of the photo is blurry. So you literally choose your focus with your finger in that app. Isn't that fun?
Any other questions for Nancy?
I don't have a question, but I would like to just kind of plug her a little bit. I don't know if you know, but she's running a photo contest of the day. She's been running it through this entire COVID stay-at-home order. And every day she gives, the picture has to be taken that day, and she gives tips, and a certain subject has to be done. And it is so much fun. On days when I am less busy and I can actually think about it, I've been taught much of what she's told today. But now I know how. I mean, I was just playing with my camera on my phone before, but now I kind of know how to do some of the things that she's shown in photos. And I never thought in a million years that I would ever get a photo chosen in her contest, because I'm just playing around with my camera, and one day I did. So play with it, go to that contest, and just throw something in there. You know, it makes me think about what I'm doing now. It's really a lot of fun.
Dorothy, thank you so much. And you guys, the contest is free. I started it on the first day of quarantine because I felt like people needed something to do, and why not do art, because it's creative and fun. And I actually leveled the playing field by making it only cell phone photos. And that's funny because I have a mentor program as well. It's like long-term. Like I've got one woman who's been studying with me for 4 years and another for 6. And so one of them commented early on, I wish you would open this up to DSLRs, like the big cameras. And I said, it's embarrassing for me if you're one of my students that you can't shoot with your darn cell phone. Like, you know, the basics that I told you about that we learned. So anyway, I do a different challenge every day, and it's not about the winning, but and Dorothy, had you had a margarita prior to shooting that? Because didn't you, wasn't your shot one of the margarita? Hey, good. Creativity. I'm not pushing that, but you never know. But yeah, it's actually fun to look at the contest. And then if you want to accept the challenge, go out and do it. But it's also awesome to watch what everybody else submits. And so one of the tips that I give people a lot is find a photographer you like and follow them. Do it. Most artists emulate someone that they love their work, like they've connected to their work and they emulate. Doesn't mean copy. It's just a starting point. It's a feel, it's a mood. So look through these photos and see some of these people. A lot of them are my students, which is funny. But Dorothy, yeah, she nailed her shot. Everybody liked it. That was good. Anybody else? No?
Nancy, when do you think you'll be starting up one-on-one classes again? Are you hoping for June or?
Yeah, I'm hoping. So I heard that Pritzker, or that Jack Franks and the mayor of McHenry, Mayor Jett, are asking him to reconsider our positioning as McHenry County because of the numbers and how we don't really fit into that northeast section of numbers. It's slowing us down in what phase we go to next. So that's my COVID update for the day, since I'm trying to keep a Nancy Merkling and the duel afloat. With that being said, because of the 90 with Nancy's, I believe that May 28th is our last in this phase 2, and then they'll make the decision. So I'm anticipating June is fine. I'm just anticipating that. I don't want to be rogue, but I feel like at this point, we can all make our decisions. If you guys are living with elderly, please don't come and let me touch your camera. Right? Like that would just be asking for it. But if you feel safe, let's do it. Let's make it happen in June. And so that'll happen. We'll be an office that can reopen at that time as well. And then we actually have on June 3rd and the 10th and something else. Maybe it's the 13th, 20th. No, 6th, 13th, 20th. Oh my gosh. You have to just add by 7. Our 3 street photography workshops in downtown Chicago. And as someone who has documented my life, remember I started this out saying, our first common denominator goal here is, as we live our life, to be able to document what's happening. And the way I really became fascinated with photography was with my grandma Evelyn's old black and white photography photo album with the crimped edges and, you know, the white writing on the black pages and the black corners. And I would ask her to tell me the stories about the people in these photos, and she would. And I was little. I mean, my cousins are reading, you know, Disney books, and I'm wanting to see the photo album. So I thought about that with my own life, is how do I take pictures of my own life? And so as we move back into non-quarantine time, everything looks different. If you think about someone having a wedding, there's going to be people there with masks on. And that's what the street photography is going to look like too. So my desire to shoot also as my life evolves, so that I have a kind of a visual representation of what goes on. I feel like the downtown street photography workshops are unprecedented, because we're going to be shooting people with masks and social distancing. The whole scene has changed. Everything has changed. My kids, their baby albums, you know, where you write in when their teeth first came in, they're empty, but they have the best portfolios photographically that any kids ever had. So I might have just like photographically documented that moment. So anyway, I plug the street photography workshops because they teach you a level of photography, and that system and how we teach it down there that likens also to travel photography, because I've noticed when I travel, nobody moves out of my way for me to take the perfect shot. So how do I actually take a shot of something in a cool country, in a street, to capture the flavor with people moving around? And so Chicago's a fun place to shoot too. I take you to cool places. All right. My nose is itching. Thank goodness I'm quarantined.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you so much, Nancy. This was awesome. We learned a lot, and I'm just raised the goal for myself of better photos for sure. So again, this will be on mchenrychamber.com if you needed to go back through and see anything that you missed. NancyMerkling.com if you want to take any of her classes. And then also, please, if you are interested in joining the new group, the Wings Premier Connections group, sign up for that by this Sunday. So thanks so much, and everybody else take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you. It was great.
Thanks,
Thank
Molly.
you.
Thanks, Nancy.